Shivaya. So we are going to discuss about a topic in Mahabharata. So I thought this would be interesting. So Lord Shiva or Bhagavan Mahadeva cannot be understood by Krishna, Vyasacharya, Arjuna, and Bhishma. And whatever the references I'll be quoting from Mahabharata. So, and also from other Puranas and other scriptures too. But mainly it will be Mahabharata. So, if you take, one by one, let's take one by one Bhishma, Arjuna, Vyasa, and Krishna. So, Bhishma, so as per the Anushasana Parvam, that is the 13th Parva of Mahabharata, you find a reference where Yudhishthira questions Bhishma about Lord Shiva. Please share the glories of Mahadeva. And to that, Bhishma says, Ashaktoham gunan vaktu Mahadevasya dhimataha. And I'm going as per the Nilakanta Chaturdhara's edition of Mahabharata. So just an FYI for everybody's information. Ashaktoham gunan vaktu Mahadevasya dhimataha. He expresses his incapability. I am incapable of understanding Lord Shiva. Shakti means, power. Ashakta means the opposite of power. So I don't have that power. For what? To understand. Mahadevasya dhimataha, gunan vaktu. To understand the qualities and the characteristics of the divine supreme Lord Shiva, I am incapable of doing that. And then he also goes on to say, Brahma Vishnu Sureshanam Srashtacha Prabhurevacha. I have already provided a detailed lecture, on the Upamanyu episode about this. But I'll just be covering about the points, as I said before, the statements made by all the four personalities that they are incapable of understanding Lord Shiva. So one reference is given by Bhishma, and then he says, Brahma Vishnu Sureshanam Srashtacha Prabhurevacha. So that Lord Shiva, whom I am incapable of understanding, is the Lord of everything. He is the Lord of even Brahma, Vishnu, Indra, etc. So that's what he says. This comes in the Anushasana Parvam, 14th chapter, as I said before. And then, and of course, there are many other references, but I want to make this short. So even later, Bhishma says, where he aligns Shatarudriyam, or the Rudram that comes as a part of the Krishna Yajurveda. He, describes how it glorifies Lord Shiva to a greater extent. So that is about Bhishma expressing his incapability to understand Lord Shiva. Next, let's move on to Arjuna. There are many instances, where you find Arjuna expressing his incapability to understand Lord Shiva. There is one place, in the Vanaparvam, where he does a terrible penance to get the Pashupatastra. So only with the Pashupatastra, he believed that, he'll be able to participate in the war and win the Kauravas. So he'll do a terrible penance to Lord Shiva to get the Pashupatastra. So that is one place. And there is also another place in the Drona Parva where Arjuna and Krishna together, when there is an instance where Arjuna forgets the mantras to invoke the Pashupatastra. At that point in time, Krishna and Arjuna, both of them, go to Lord Shiva again. It comes in the middle of the Drona Parva. At that point in time, they venerate or glorify Lord Shiva with the verses from Rudram. And, even in the Vanaparva where Arjuna has a combat with Lord Shiva, and then he gets defeated, and then he understands that the being who is in front of him, the hunter who is in front of him, is not an ordinary personality, and he realizes it is none other than Lord Shiva. And then he glorifies various hymns and various songs of praise about Lord Shiva. So despite all these things happening, there is a very, very interesting part that comes in the last chapter of the Drona Parva of Mahabharata. Very, very interesting, actually. So, which literally identifies the potency or the supremacy of Lord Shiva. So that's where Arjuna, is completely perplexed. That is at the end of the 15 days of war. And Arjuna is completely, totally perplexed. He doesn't know, what to do. Because as per, from his standpoint, he has been combating with his enemies and he has been, defeating them. So he has been doing that, but he alone knows the real truth. From the world's view or the world's standpoint, Arjuna was the one who defeated all the enemies. Arjuna defeated Drona. Arjuna defeated Bhishma, and he killed many warriors on the Kauravas side. But he alone knew the truth, real truth, that there was someone else who was helping him in the war. So that's where, he goes to Vyasa and then he questions, I need to know a truth, O Vyasacharya. The world thinks that I have been combating and defeating my enemies, but there was another Purusha, a divine, Purusha again refers to the Supreme. Purusha also refers to male, or Purusha, in the Veda refers to the Supreme. So a divine person or a divine being was helping me, and the arrows and the lances and the spears that were coming from him were killing my enemies. And my arrows were just hitting the dead bodies. It was just hitting the dead bodies of my enemies. It was he who was the divine personality or the divine being who was helping me to defeat all my enemies, or he was killing all my enemies actually. So he was standing in one place, and then thousands and thousands of spears and lances and originated from his divine body, and then they were killing my enemies. So without his favor, I would not have, won the war until this day, till the 15 days. So who is that real personality? So this is where, despite Arjuna receiving the blessings of Lord Shiva, right, as per the Vanaparva, and again he goes, along with Krishna, he goes and then gets the Pashupatastra again in the Drona Parva. So despite that, here we see Arjuna's incapability to understand Lord Shiva, or he is totally perplexed. He doesn't know, who is that divine person. The same expression is, provided, or the same kind of thing is provided, is told by Vishnu also, as per the 105th chapter of the Padma Purana, Patala Kanda, where he says, Namaste Deva Devesha, Namaste Shashvata Avyaya, Najane Hambhavam Tambos Twamcha Vetsi Namo Namaha. Oh Deva Deva, the Lord of all the Devatas, you seem to be eternal and imperishable. Najane Hambhavam Tambos Twamcha Vetsi Namo Namaha. You seem to know me with the kind of tejas and the radiance and refulgence that you have. You seem to know me, but I don't know you. I'm incapable of knowing you, O Lord Shiva. That's where we see, that's the expression, or that's the situation of Arjuna, where he expresses his incapability of understanding the divine supreme being who was favoring him in the war. So that's the second person. We saw how Bhishma is incapable, and Arjuna also expresses his incapability to understand the supreme. He doesn't even know. In the first place, he doesn't even know, who it is. It is Lord Shiva, Sakshat Mahadeva, who was favoring him, but he doesn't even know that. So that clearly says how Arjuna is also incapable of understanding the supreme Mahadeva. And then Vyasacharya, goes on to, enlighten him. Prajapatinam Prathamam Taijasam Purusham Prabhum, Bhuvanam Bhurbhuvam Devam, Sarvalokeshwaram Prabhum, Ishanam Varadam Partha, Drishtavanasi Shankaram, Tamgacha Sharanam Devam, Varadam Bhuvaneshwaram, Mahadevam Haramsthanam, Varadam Bhuvaneshwaram, Jagat Pradhanam Ajitam. He goes on and on for 150 verses. Beautiful chapter in the entire Mahabharata. One of my favorite chapters also. So where he talks about how Shankara or Mahadeva, Sakshat Mahadeva was the one who was favoring you in the war. And then, so that we saw about Bhishma and Arjuna, and now talking about Vyasa, because Vyasacharya, this is where I want to connect Vyasacharya and Arjuna, because Vyasacharya is the one who enlightens Arjuna about Lord Shiva. After saying all those things and talking about the divine Leelas of Lord Shiva, explaining how he is the supreme of the supreme, and then finally he says, Vedak Sangopanishadaha Puranad Dhyatma Nishchayaha Yadatra Paramam Guhyam Savaidevo Maheshwaraha Idrishascha Mahadevo Bhuyamscha Bhagavan Ajaha Nahi Sarve Maya Shakya Vaktum Bhagavato Gunaha Apivarsha Sagasrena Satatam Pandunandana. It's a very, very important sloka where he says, the Puranas, the Upapuranas, the Vedas, the Upanishads, and the Itihasas, everything, Sa Angaha, Vedaha, Sa Angaha, Upanishadaha, Purana Adhyatma Nishchayaha, whatever topics that deal with Adhyatma, like Adhyatma related or the soul related stuff, everything, in all these things, Vedak Sangopanishadaha, Puranadhyatma Nishchayaha, Yadatra Paramam Guhyam. So in all these things, the highest secret is referring to Savaidevo Maheshwaraha. So Lord Shiva is the highest of the highest secrets in all these things. Be it the Puranas or the Upapuranas or the Itihasas or the Dharmashastras or the Vedas or Upanishads or the Agamas, wherever, the highest secret is dealing with Lord Shiva. That's why, like the Vedas, in a very, very subtle way, it glorifies Lord Shiva. Directly it doesn't. Uma Sahayam, Radakam Satyam, Param Brahma Purusham Krishna Pinganam, Kailasa Shikarabasa, Himavadgiri, Kailasa Shikarabasa, Himavadgiri Samstitaha. So that's how, indirectly it glorifies Lord Shiva. Even the Narayana Suktam, in a very subtle way, it glorifies Lord Shiva. I have posted a video on that too. So, and then he goes on to say, Idrishascha Mahadeva Bhuyamscha Bhagavan Ajaha Nahi Sarve Maya Shakya. See, note the point. He also expresses, he enlightens Arjuna because he is perplexed. And then after explaining, after reciting 150 verses glorifying Lord Shiva, he finally accepts that he is also Nahi Sarve Maya Shakya Vaktum Bhagavato Gunaha Api Varsha Sagasrena Satatam Pandunandana. Even if I have to speak of his qualities and characteristics, I won't be able to complete it even if I have to recite it for thousands of years. Api Varsha Sagasrena Satatam Pandunandana. Nahi Sarve Maya Shakya. Shakya means, that power, or, just like Bhishma said, Ashaktoham Gunan Vaktum. So I don't have the incapable of, completely glorifying Lord Shiva, even if I have to recite his glories for thousands of years. So we see even Vyasacharya also expresses his incapability to understand Lord Shiva. So we saw Bhishma, we saw Arjuna, we saw Vyasa. All three of them, are incapable of understanding Lord Shiva. And let's move on to Krishna. So Krishna, if you see, Bhagavad Gita, we have, I have already uploaded a 14-part lecture explaining how Bhagavad Gita connects with Lord Shiva. Even the last chapter of Drona Parva explains how, it is connected to, Bhagavad Gita is connected to Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is actually the one who is showing the Virat Roop. Later in the Ashwamedha Parva of Mahabharata, when there is a situation where Arjuna asks questions Krishna, that he has forgotten the knowledge that was given to him in the battlefield and requested him to repeat. At that point, Krishna says, Nacha Shakyam Punarvaktum Asheshena Dhananjaya. Na Shakyam Tanmaya Bhuyas. That again the word, repetition of Shakya or Shakti is spoken of here. You know, na Shakyam Tanmaya Bhuyas, or Nacha Shakyam Punarvaktum Asheshena Dhananjaya. I am incapable, or I don't have the power or the potency to, repeat the words or explain it again, O Arjuna. And then he goes on to say, Param hi Brahma Katitam Yoga Yuktena Tanmaya. So that comes in the Ashwamedha Parva of Mahabharata. So the 14th Parva and the 16th chapter. So where he was one with the divine supreme Lord Shiva when he was conveying the message of Bhagavad Gita. It goes on to say that. So, and likewise you find the common thing that everybody express, Bhishma or Vyasa or Krishna, is Shakya. Ashaktokam. Bhishma says Ashakta. Vyasacharya says Nahi sarve maya Shakya. And Krishna says Nacha Shakyam Punarvaktum Asheshena. So that Shakya means that power, everyone express their incapability. Krishna also expresses his incapability to understand Lord Shiva. And we also see how, like Krishna gets into having a conversation with Upamanyu Maharshi. The 5 chapters that come in the Anushasana Parvam. And Upamanyu Maharshi, explains about the glory of Lord Shiva. And then he goes on to do a great penance, taking Shiva Diksha, and he does penance to Lord Shiva and then gets all the boons. We see that. And also, there is another place in the Anushasana Parvam where Durvasa Maharshi once comes to Dwaraka, and then where Krishna, along with all his wives, he does service to Durvasa Maharshi, who is a Rudramsha, who is a Kala Rudramsha. And at that point in time, when Durvasa Maharshi is very much pleased with the service of Krishna and his wives, he says that, I will impart you the greatest knowledge or the highest secret. And he talks about Lord Shiva. And then Krishna hears it from the mouth of Durvasa Maharshi. So, Pranjalik Shatarudriyam. Krishna himself says that he doesn't start his day without reciting Rudram. He starts off his day by venerating Lord Shiva, and then he glorifies, Pranjalik Shatarudriyam. I recite the Rudram verses, and then only that's how I start off my each day. That comes in the 160th chapter of the Anushasana Parvam, Mahabharata. So likewise, there are many other places, like you find, so Drona Parva is one episode, and the episode of Upamanyu Maharshi is another thing. And you find various instances where Krishna glorifies Lord Shiva as the supreme of the supreme of the supreme. So we see, like that Shakya or the Nacha Shakyam Punarvaktum, or the power or the potency, all 4 personalities, be it Vyasacharya, Arjuna, Bhishma and Krishna, are incapable, of understanding the supreme Lord Shiva, because he is the highest secret. Krishna in another place says to Markandeya in Kurma Puranam, 1st canto, 25th chapter, he says, 103rd verse, Namo Veda Ragasyaya Neelakantaya Vai Namaha. He is described as Veda Ragasya. He is the highest secret in the Vedas. So you cannot understand the secret very easily. You have to strive. You have to strive for it. Then only you will get it. And then he goes on to say, Shankaraya Maheshaya Girishaya Shivaya cha Namaskurushva Satatam Dhyayasva cha Maheshwaram Samsara Sagarad Asmad Achirad Duddharishyati. He says that he alone, Lord Shiva alone, can liberate all the souls. He alone is capable of liberating everybody. He is the only giver of liberation. And the same fact is attested at another place where he says in Sutta Samhita to his devotee, Satyasandha, Mahadevam Vinayomam Bhajate Shraddhaya Saha Nasti Tasya Vinirmokshaha Samsara Janmakotibihi. Even if someone worships me with faith, discarding Lord Shiva for crores of, even if it is crores and crores of years or crores and crores of janmas, he will never attain mukti because he is discarding Lord Shiva. So such a person will never get moksha even in crores and crores of lifetimes. So finally he says, Shiva danyam parityajya shivam sambam sadabhaja. So apart from Lord Shiva, throw away everything and keep chanting the names of Lord Shiva alone. Shivam sambam sadabhaja. Likewise, you find, like Krishna doing a stuti to Lord Shiva as per the Devi Bhagavatam, 4th canto, 25th chapter also. Very beautiful stuti to Amba and Lord Shiva. And many, many places. Even the Brahma Vaivarta Puranam, there are places where he explains to Radha that he is incapable of understanding Lord Shiva. Naham janami ka shrutihi. There is a place where the age of Lord Shiva is discussed. And then Naham janami ka shrutihi. Even the Vedas cannot understand his age, and even I am not aware of his age, because you cannot calculate the age of an ageless personality. Lord Shiva is ageless. So that is the thing. So that's where you find, these are some of the references. As per Mahabharata, I have come, whatever I said in the beginning, those are some of the references where you find Bhishma, Arjuna, Vyasa and Krishna expressing their incapability to understand Lord Shiva. So he is the supreme of the supreme of the supreme and beyond, at the end of the day, who cannot be understood by anybody. So that's about this. Thank you.